Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates. Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, where we venture into what, why and how of current affairs published in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper. Current affairs for today's discussion, that is dated 13th of April 2021, are listed on your screen. Let us start with the first discussion itself. Important announcement. First batch of QIP or Quality Improvement Program has already begun on 12th of this month. QIP classes would cover up more relevant and sought after topics for the upcoming prelims examination. This program would cover history, polity, geography and environment, science and technology, economy and international relations in 50 hours. Next batch of QIP would start on 3rd of May 2021. Well, this article was published on the page 14 of the Hindu newspaper, that is the business section. This article directly talks about the retail inflation and its rising trend. The government says the inflation or the retail inflation has increased by 5.52%, although it is below the 6% level of Monetary Policy Committee or the RBI. So it is as of now not a matter of concern to a larger extent. However, why we need to study inflation? Well, inflation has been the core topic of economy and a very favorite topic to the UPSC. It has been asked multiple times in the past years, and inflation is also associated with the topics like RBI, economic policy, and in fact the Monetary Policy Committee. Going by the past questions, as you can see, in 2015 UPSC has asked that with reference to the inflation in India, which of the following statement is correct? So it's a straightforward question. Controlling the inflation in India is responsibility of Government of India only. Even if you go by the basics of the inflation, you will see that inflation is associated with the money supply in the economy, and which means there is a role of Reserve Bank of India. Second statement, the Reserve Bank of India has no role in controlling the inflation. Again, going by the basics, if money supply is involved, there is role of Reserve Bank of India, hence this statement becomes wrong. Option C, decreased money circulation help in controlling the inflation. And last, increasing money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. Now, if you increase the money supply or money circulation in the economy, that will raise the demand. Ultimately, that will raise the inflation. Hence, this statement automatically becomes wrong. Hence, your answer is option C. Going to the next question. A rapid increase in the rate of inflation is sometimes attributed to the base effect. What is base effect? Now, as the article itself talks about the base effect, we will go in much detail of this later on. However, let us go through this question. It is the impact of drastic deficiency in supply due to failure of crops. No, sir, this is not at all associated with agriculture. It is the impact of surge in the demand due to rapid economic growth. Maybe if you are not sure about the effect, it is the impact of price levels of previous year on the circulation of inflation. Now, it may be associated with the inflation. And the last option is none of the statement A, B, C given above are correct in the context. So, if you are left with these two topics, you can easily identify that base effect is associated with the inflation. So, base effect simply means the effect of the previous data on the current data. Hence, your option comes out to be C. Now, let us go into the article itself. The article says the retail inflation quickens to 5.52%. Now, data is not at all important for UPSC. However, you should know the basic trends of certain variables which are increasing or decreasing in the economy. The article says there is rise in the retail inflation, which has increased to 4-month high of 5.52%. As far as core inflation is concerned, it has increased to whooping 29-month high at 5.96%. Well, this is a concern. Next in the article is the index of industrial production, which shows a shrinking. Now, both of the above topics were rising. This is shrinking by 3.6%. So there is high inflation, there is reduction in the production. Somehow it shows the situation of stagflation, which means stagnation plus inflation. Now, why the situation is arising? What are the basic causes? First being, there is rise in the domestic demand. So domestic demand has taken the upward trend after the lockdown situation last year. There is also a high base effect, as it was asked in the previous question. There is high base effect. There is also an increase in the commodity prices. As you can see, there is a high increase in the prices of petrol and basic fuels. So when there is rise in the basic fuel prices, there is rise in the commodity prices as well. On the other hand, all the industrial sectors except the electricity are on the declining. So whether you talk about manufacturing or the mining or any other associated activity, they are on the declining trend, although the electricity is increasing. Now, what is inflation? Let us go into the basics of these. Well, inflation simply means an increase, not a decrease, but an increase in the general price level over a period of time. Now, there are three things. First, it is increasing. So when price decrease, that is not inflation, that is deflation. General price here means prices which are at the national level. So we are not talking about prices in Delhi or in Mumbai or maybe any other state like Bihar or Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh. It is a price at all India level. An important point is that prices or the inflation data is collected by the central government and not the state government. And lastly, it is measured in a point of time. So you will not measure inflation on a particular day or a particular time. It is on the period of time. So between months, between years, or between decades. Now, what are the basic causes of inflation? Well, there are just two causes. First being the demand, second being the cost. So if there is rise in the demand, people have more money in their hand and they are running after the goods, there is rise in the prices. Secondly, if there is cost push or there is rise in the cost of production. So if labor is demanding more wages, so the producer will raise the price of the product itself. So if electricity is high, if the price of the petrol is high, if the price of transportation is high, or maybe the raw material is high, that will push up the prices of the product. Now, what are the causes of demand pull and cost push inflation? Now, these topics are extremely important for you for prelims as well as mains examination. So going by the demand pull inflation. If there is increase in the money supply, this is the basic reason for the inflation, as you have seen in the questions asked by the UPSC as well. So if there is more supply of money in the economy, people will have more money in their hand and when they will go out in the market to buy more products. Next is deficit financing. Deficit financing simply means government has a deficit in the revenue account and they are financing that, means they are putting more money in the economy. Next is income increasing or increase in the salaries. As you have seen in the case of 7th pay commission, the implementation of the pay commission has increased the inflation in the economy. Next is the reduction in the direct tax. So when government reduces your taxes, you will have more money at disposal and that disposal money will raise the demand in the economy. Next is the increase in the population. Very basic reason, more hands and mouth in the economy, more will be the demand. Increase in the black money. Well, black money is not accounted for the GDP. So when there is a black money in the economy, it creates the demand. However, it is not part or not counted as such. Hence, it increased the inflation pressure. Next is the increase in government expenditure. It is as similar as the deficit financing. Next is the increase in the exports and reduction in imports. So when you increase the exports, you gain money from other economies, and more money in the economy or in Indian economy will mean there is rise in the demand. Next is causes of cost push inflation. It simply means rise in the price of inputs. Inputs could be anything. It could be labor, it could be machinery, it could be electricity, fuel, or any other associated product which is part of the production. It also arises because of the increase in indirect taxes. So if there is rise in the GST, there will be rise in the prices. Next is reduction in the subsidy. So if today government reduces its subsidy on the electricity to the manufacturing units, that will raise the prices. Reduction in the output. So if there is reduction in the output in the market, let's say wheat or rice, that will definitely create the scarcity and raise the prices. Next is the hoarding and speculation. It is a deliberate measure to reduce the availability of a product in the market, which creates a scarcity and raises the price. Next is defective supply chain. It is seen in case of food products or food grains. Increase in the price of imported commodities. The best example is the fuel or the oil which we import from the West Asian countries, including Saudi Arabia. So if they raise the price of oil, there is rise of prices or inflation in India. And lastly is the depreciation of currency, which means imports becomes expensive. The next is basics of consumer price index. Consumer price index basically and simply means the retail inflation, which this article also talks about. Retail inflation is nothing but the price paid by the final consumer, that is you and me. It is the final consumer simply means that the wholesale price when added with the transportation cost and the retailer's margin or the retailer's profit together makes up the retail price which you and me pay in the market, and this price actually makes the consumer price index. It is calculated by the National Statistical Organization, which is functioning under the central government. Food and beverages. Food here means everything which is edible, including the oil seeds and oil. Food and beverages have the highest weightage because food is the most essential part to the consumer. Consumer is not concerned about the capital goods or the machineries in the market. They are concerned more about their disposal goods. Hence, they make the highest weightage of 45.86%. CPI in India is divided under 4 categories, and these 4 categories are based on the consumers themselves. First is CPI industrial worker, that is the workers who are working in the industries irrespective whether they are in the urban areas or the rural areas. Then CPI rural laborers simply means the people who are working in rural areas but not on the agricultural fields. Next comes is the agricultural laborers or the CPI of the agricultural laborers, and the lastly is CPI of urban non-manual employees. Basically it includes the people who are working in this service sector. CPI also covers the services. Well, this is a keyword that CPI also covers the services, unlike the WPI, which does not have services included. CPI is also used by the Reserve Bank of India for its inflation targeting. This is used by Monetary Policy Committee. And lastly, the core inflation. Core inflation simply means an inflation targeting or an inflation measure where food and fuel prices, which are very fluctuating in nature, are excluded. So when you exclude the food and fuel prices from the CPI, the thing which you will get in last is the core inflation. Moving ahead to the wholesale price index. It simply means the prices at the wholesale market. The wholesale market is not the market where a consumer buys. It is the market where a retailer buy a product, add the transportation cost, add his own profit, and then sell to the consumer. It is compiled by the Office of Economic Advisor to the central government. There are different items which have different weightage associated with them. The primary articles in the WPI have a weightage of 22% and include food and non-food items, including the fibers such as cotton, jute, and others. The second category is food and power, which has a weightage of 13%, and it includes coal, oil, and electricity. And lastly, there is manufactured goods, which has the highest weightage of 65%, and it includes food, beverages, textile, chemicals, and many other manufactured products. You should not get confused with the food in the first category and food in the third category. In first category, food was not manufactured. In this last category, it is manufactured. Chips, food items, and anything which is manufactured in the factories is part of the last category. As transport cost is not concerned here, so the fuel prices is not a concern in WPI. Hence, WPI does not get easily fluctuating because of the rise in fuel prices. Moving ahead, what are the measures required to control the inflation in the economy? Well, this could be easily asked in the means, so pay more spatial attention to this topic. Well, there are two easy methods to control the inflation. First being the monetary policy, which is under the control of Reserve Bank of India, and second is the fiscal policy. Fisc means treasury, and fiscal policy is part of the treasury of the government, that is expenditure and the revenue. In monetary policy, the central bank can adopt DEAR policy. DEAR means strong monetary policy, where it raises the qualitative and the quantitative restrictions to control the total money supply in the economy. Monetary Policy Committee is responsible to take any such decisions. Reserve Bank can raise CRR or even SLR or even the bank rate. There are also instances where RBI has used tools like repo rates, and in fact they have also used some qualitative measures like moral suasions. All these measures are used to control the money supply in the economy. Coming to the fiscal policy, it simply means reduction in government expenditure or increasing its revenue. So if government is reducing its expenditure on the economy or in the economy, or it raises the taxation to raise the revenue, it simply means employing the fiscal policy. It adopts a surplus budget, which means revenue is ahead of expenditure. Lastly, the postponement of public debt repayment can also help to reduce the inflation. It simply means that government will defer its payment on different instruments such as public provident fund or any saving certificate. If government deny to repay that on a particular period of time, that will reduce the demand in the economy. Now, is inflation all bad? Well, the answer is no. Sometimes inflation is also good. There are two reasons for that. First, inflation benefits the borrower. When you borrow money from a bank or any other entity, and when the inflation rate is above the rate of interest, it simply means that you are going to benefit. Secondly, there is a concept of Philip curve. Well, UPSC can ask a simple question on the Philip curve. Philip curve shows that the high inflation benefits the producer, which encourages him to demand more labor. So more profit comes to the producer, they demand more labor, and ultimately there is more employment opportunity available. On the right side, you can see there is Philip curve. It simply means as the inflation rate is high, the unemployment rate goes reducing. It simply means when there is a price rise in the economy, more people are employed. And lastly, we come across the two basic points which were given in the article. First is the base effect. Well, it is nothing but a distortion in the monthly inflation figure that results from the abnormally high and low level of inflation in the year or month ago. A base effect can make it difficult to accurately assess the inflation level over time. Well, let us understand with a simple example. Suppose in year 2021, the inflation rate is 5%, and in 2022, the inflation rate turned out to be 6%. Now, the change in this two figure is nothing but 20%. However, if the base is very low, let's say 1%, and the inflation turned out to be 6% as it was earlier, now because the base was very small, it has caused the base effect. And this base effect says that there is a rise of 500% in the inflation. Now, as you can see, the data was same, but because of there is a change in the base year or the base data, the result is totally different, and this is known as the base effect. The next or the last in the article is about the index of industrial production. It simply measures the change in the industrial output over a period of time. Suppose there is a firm X which produces 100 units this year, and the same firm produces 110 units next year. It simply means there is rise of 10% on its production. It means the IIP has increased by 10%. Well, this index has three categories: mining, manufacturing, and electricity, and the highest weightage comes to the manufacturing. You need not to go in any detail of these data or any other things. Just remember that manufacturing has the highest weightage in the industrial product. Moving ahead to the next article. This article, published on the 7th page of Hindu newspaper, deals with a very important topic of GS paper 2, that is international relations. Well, this article talks about the current status of South Asian nations, including the India and Pakistan. The author has said that the peace with Pakistan is not just a bilateral matter, but is essential for India to transform the South Asia. Now, South Asian region has been going through a turmoil of relationships. The bilateral trade among South Asian countries has been going in the downward trend, especially in the case of India and Pakistan. This article, and especially the author, has talked about how to improve the relations between the South Asian nations from the perspective of India. The article deals basically with the basic reasons of poor relations in South Asian area. There is current potential for growth in South Asia. It also talks about the possible way out to bring sustainable relations. Apart from the article itself, we will also venture into some of the extra topics which are relevant as far as these relationships are concerned. What are the basic fallout of the bilateral relations in South Asian region? We will keep our focus on the relationship between India and Pakistan. The basic reasons for feudal relations between both these nations are listed on your screen. First being the cross-border terrorism. This also includes drug trafficking, arms smuggling, counterfeit currency, as well as the human trafficking. There have been hundreds of instances when Pakistan has taken up adventurous initiative to keep terrorist organizations active on Indian soil, as we have seen in the example of Uri attack as well as in the Pulwama attack. The next comes the Kashmir issue. Kashmir issue is basically based on who is the real owner or sovereign. Well, it simply means that the Kashmir area comes under which country. So Pakistan claims its own territorial right over Kashmir, as well as India also claims its own territorial right. And this issue has remained unresolved since it has arose in 1948. The next being the changing political ideologies. As we have seen, the change in the political ideologies in both the nations has also caused deterioration or even the improvement in the bilateral relations, as was seen during the Shimla Agreement, as was seen during the Lahore Declaration, and as was seen in the recent ceasefire revival talks. Recently, the government of Pakistan has initiated a ceasefire revival, and it has agreed to reduce the firing on the borders in order to move towards the dialogue process. Next being the poor economic integration. India and Pakistan have a trade as low as $500 million, which is extremely low when it compares to the trade these countries have with the other nations. So poor integration is just a function of trust deficit. Higher the trust deficit, lower is the economic integration. Next is lack of connectivity. So lack of connectivity simply means that the people across the borders do not find it easier to move from one place to the another, and similarly there is the case of goods and services. So lack of connectivity, be it the land route or be it the air route, there is lack of confidence among both the nations, and the borders have largely remained sealed. And last being the outsider interference, which simply means the Chinese presence. The Chinese presence in the subcontinent has increased tensions in the Indian side because the Chinese way of working has been against the India's whims and fancies, and they have been very, very aggressive when it comes to going anti-India as well as going against India at the international platform, as you can see in the case of UNSC reforms. The current potential of South Asia. Now, why South Asia is very much relevant for the Asian age or for the global geopolitics? Well, this area holds the large demography. So this area has a population of about 1.7 billion people. Hence, it also holds a very large demand, not only for the international or the multinational corporations, but also for their domestic players. The historical relations, including the colonized or the colonization history makes these nations as much as related to each other, and this is very much relevant for the working of soft diplomacy. As these nations are very much connected through the borders, they are very much open because they are part of the subcontinent. There is ease of connectivity. So be it Pakistan, be it Bangladesh or Nepal or Bhutan, these nations have very high connectivity or ease of connectivity where people and goods and services can move across the border very easily. Apart from this, this ease of connectivity also provides access to tough terrain. As you can see in the case of India and Bangladesh, where India has been or in contact with the Bangladesh to provide accessibility from Calcutta to the northeastern states including Mizoram and Tripura via Bangladesh. So these nations can come together to provide ease of connectivity, which is very much easier for them if they stand on the same policy parameters. Next being the South Asia holds about $12 trillion of GDP on the basis of purchasing power parity, which is very high. It is even higher than the economies of ASEAN, which are very highly integrated. South Asia is not highly integrated. SAARC has remained largely dysfunctional for the past 5 years. Despite that, it has shown a GDP of $12 trillion. This shows the potential this area holds with itself. Next being the rising agricultural and manufacturing growth. Most of the nations, including India, are showing a very high agricultural output as well as the manufacturing growth in South Asia, and they are being very much attractive to the foreign direct investment for this matter. India's share in the total land area, population and real GDP of South Asia in 2006 was 62%, 75% and 83% respectively. So this real GDP at 83% shows the kind of position India holds in the diplomacy and the geopolitics in this particular area, and India can utilize this for improving the South Asian relation. The way out. The way out simply means the best possible solutions which can be put up to improve the relations in this area. Well, firstly, the bilateral trade holds the key. Bilateral trade should be taken up openly without the political reasoning. So once we keep out the political ideologies from the bilateral trade or the economic integration, it would work better. Next comes the joint military exercises. When military of two different nations comes together to go for a joint exercises, it increases the strategic confidence among both the nations and also the security relationships. Ease of connectivity through air and land route. For this, the borders should be made more secure and confidence should be built among the partners to provide open air policy where flights or airlines from one nation to the other nation can move without any hindrance. External or third party interference should be avoided as much as possible. So in order to bring a long lasting solution to the South Asia, countries or the member countries should try to keep their local issues to themselves without providing any interference to the external party, be it China, USA, Russia or any other major player. Lastly, briefing up of the securities at the border and sharing the security intelligence would help to fight the terrorist activities altogether. So once India and Pakistan, or maybe India, Nepal or India, Bangladesh come up with a same security policy, they would provide a secure environment where borders could be secured and confidence among these nations could be built. Given these solutions, the relations between South Asian nations could be built up and a sustained future could be taken out. All these way out is possible if players like India and Pakistan take major initiatives, come to the table of dialogue and discuss all the issues as early as possible. Next article is associated with the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner of India. President Ram Nath Kovind has appointed the existing Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra as the next Chief Election Commissioner of India. This statement was released by Law Ministry, as Election Commission of India and its supervision comes under the Ministry of Law. This article is relevant from the perspective of prelims because UPSC have been asking questions on the constitutional bodies in the prelims examination, as well as this is important for your GS paper too. The matters which we will discuss in this article are the Election Commission of India and the role played by the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India is an independent constitutional authority. It is also a quasi-judicial authority, and it was created within the constitution itself, and it started functioning on 25th of January 1950. The constitution provides for Chief Election Commissioner, which was existing since the constitution came into being, and one or more election commissioner since 1989 to be appointed by President of India. As we have seen, the existing President Ram Nath Kovind has appointed the new Chief Election Commissioner. Chief Election Commissioner is removed in the similar manner by which a judge of a Supreme Court is removed. It means there is a long drawn process through which Parliament also participate. Both the houses of the Parliament passes a resolution with a special majority to remove the Chief Election Commissioner in a similar manner as a judge of a Supreme Court is removed. However, the Election Commissioner, that is the two existing Election Commissioner or the regional commissioners, are removed only on the recommendation of the Chief Election Commissioner. Now this also remains a point of contention and a very relevant issue as far as Election Commission of India is concerned. Apart from this, another issue which was in the news recently was the removal of State Election Commissioner, as was seen in the case of Andhra Pradesh. The relevant article where you need to focus upon are Article 324, which deals with the existence of Election Commission of India, Article 326, which provides a right to vote to every citizen of India who is at the age of 18 or above, and Article 243K, which provides for State Election Commission, which was added after 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. The role of Election Commission of India is very wide. The Election Commission of India shall have the superintendence, direction and the control of the preparation of electoral rolls for and the conduct of all the elections to the Parliament and the state legislation, along with the offices of President and Vice President. It clearly says that Election Commission of India does not have any superintendence or any direction towards the elections which are conducted for the villages and for the urban local bodies, for which under Article 243K, State Election Commissioner is authorized. Election Commission of India also prepares, maintains and periodically updates the electoral rolls, in which the names of all the voters is given. It shows who is entitled to vote. This commission also supervises the nomination of the candidates. It registered the political parties, including the national parties. It also monitors the entire election campaign, as you have seen in the recent elections being conducted in the state of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Assam. It also supervises the funding mechanism in the election and also the limit on the election expenses. But there is the point, Commission itself does not determine the limit of the election expenses. These expenses or its limit is determined by the Law Ministry. The supervisory power also exercised over the conduct of the election, issue of notification, appointment of the returning officer, which is in the larger case an administrative officer with the rank of an SDM and above. It also function for the reserved seat of ST, SC and other candidates, but it does not define the level or the stage of reservation, which is an exercise made by the Parliament of India. So Parliament of India determines the reservation criteria or its strength. Election Commission does not apply that. The Commission also provides for the application of Model Code of Conduct, which determines that how practices should be undertaken during the election process and how candidates should act during the entire election process till the results are announced. Last article for the day is related to the relevant military exercises where India is the major participating country. Well, this exercise, also called as Shantir Ugra Sena, was conducted in Bangladesh for the past 10 days. It is a multinational military exercise and concluded yesterday. Let us see something about it. Shanti Ugra Sena was organized to pay tribute to the Bangbandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman on his birth centenary and celebrate the golden jubilee of liberation in Bangladesh. Bangladesh got liberated in 1971 after the Indo-Pak War, in which India was a victorious nation. The objective of the exercise was to strengthen the defense ties and enhance the interoperability among the neighboring or the neighborhood countries to Bangladesh to ensure the effective peacekeeping operations. The major participating countries in this exercise were India, Bangladesh, Bhutan and Sri Lanka, which all are South Asian countries, along with the observer nations such as US, UK, Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Singapore. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, also the Bangladeshi politician and the statesman, is called as father of the nation in Bangladesh. He served as the first president of Bangladesh and later became the prime minister of the nation, but he was assassinated on 15th of August 1975, 4 years within the independence of the country. He is the driving force behind the independence of Bangladesh. He is popularly dubbed with the title of Bang Bandhu, or the friend of Bengal, among the people in Bangladesh. These are some of the defense exercises where India is a major player or India is a major partner. Garud Shakti exercise is conducted between India and Indonesia. Bangladesh and India conduct Sampriti. Aquamarine is conducted between India and Maldives, hand in hand with China. Kurukshetra with Singapore, Mitra Shakti with Sri Lanka and Nomadic Elephant with the Mongolia.